We want to find the exact value in radians of these. First of all, I have an inverse sine, so I want to think about inverse sine. Where have we restricted that range to be? And that for inverse sine is the right half of the unit circle from negative pi halves to pi halves. So then I need to say where within this range is the sine 1/2, and that would be right here. That would be where we have square root 3 over 2 and 1/2, sine being the y value. So that is at pi over 6. All right, as we move over here, we have arc cosine of 0. So that's asking me where, and the cosine is restricted to the upper half of the circle from 0 to pi. When is the x value, or the cosine value, 0? And that would be right here. And so that would be at pi over 2. Next we have when on our restricted range, which was right here on the right half of the circle, is the y value, or the sine 1, and that would be right up at the top. So that would be at pi over 2. And as we look to the next one, cosine, let's go ahead and look above again. It's restricted between 0 and pi. And so when is that value square root 2 over 2, which is right here in the middle? That would be at pi over 4. Moving down, we have sine. Again, our sine was on the right half of the circle. I'm going to redraw that. So we can think of, we want the right half of the circle, and we need to give answers from negative pi halves to pi halves. Since the sine is negative, I know I've got to be here in quadrant 4, and I want bigger y, so it's going to be down like this. This would be at the point where the x is 1/2 and the y is negative square root 3 over 2. But if I give that angle as 5 pi thirds, that's going to be wrong, because remember, we have a restricted range. We have to get out things from negative pi halves to pi halves, so I need to give that angle as negative pi thirds. So now let's look at our last one, which was an arc cosine. Again, we're restricted to the upper half from 0 to pi, and because it is, the cosine is negative, we know we're in quadrant 2 and we want bigger x, so that the square root of 3 over 2 is the x, but it's negative in quadrant 2. So that is 5 pi 6.